Why is Ruben Amorim being given so much time at Manchester United when every other week it feels like the question's being asked, why has he not been sacked yet? Why is he still in this job? Is this guy good enough to be managing at Manchester United? That question is being asked, if not every week, every other week. And I mean, it's a fair question. We all know the stats. We've all seen the numbers. Every week there seems to be a new stat, basically calling out Amarin for his being one of the worst managers we've seen at Manchester United. The win loss column is not in his favour in any way, shape, or form. But United continue to back him. United continue to believe in him, and there's a few reasons for that. I mean, the obvious one that came out, I think the Athletic released today the amount of money Manchester United paid out to when firing managers since Sir Alex Ferguson, and they've paid out almost £53 million to dismiss managers who have not been up to task since the departure of the great Sir Alex Ferguson back in 2013. And Ruben Amorim feels like he's gonna be another one, but they're trying to give him time, and partly because this is an era where Manchester United are looking to cut unnecessary costs wherever they can, and they're hoping that the 12 million that it would cost them to dismiss Ruben Amorim within the first year of his contract turns out to be an unnecessary cost, and they're hoping that he can ultimately turn it around at this club. And there is some slight reasons to believe in that, but realistically, I think everyone's kind of singing from the same hymn sheet right now. We want him to do better. We hope he's going to do better, but we don't really know if he is. There's a lot to like about Amarim, the way he conducts himself. Obviously, sharply dressed, good looking guy, speaks really well. Like, he's a guy you want to believe in, but every week it just feels like it gets harder and harder to back him and truly believe in his system and his ideas and his motivation. I think the system is obviously it gets exaggerated. I guess it more falls down on the motivation and his ability to coach these players and get them to perform to the levels that he wants. That's kind of the biggest problem that's facing him, because let's look at obviously the last season was bad, but we know he never wanted to come in the middle of last season. He wanted to wait until the summer. He obviously got to the Europa League final, couldn't get past Spurs, but all in all, he did what he did. But he basically just continued, on the trend that they were already on under Eric Ten Hag. That last season was always going to be bad. So I think it's totally fair to not focus in too hard on last season and look to the new season. He's actually been able to make a couple of signings. They've had a tough enough start to the year. Obviously, Grimsby was a huge low point. But if you look at all the games and you take out individual errors, United are in a much better position. They are 4 points off the top four right now. If that's the case another month from now, that'll be good going. I mean, it's. I know you have to focus on the actual performances, and I know we can't just forget about the struggles that we've seen last year. But I think there is a lot that's gone against United this year in terms of just, I mean, their own fault, like not like bad luck or not like VAR decisions or anything like that. It's been individual errors that it's really hard to blame the manager for. Yes, you can maybe blame him for their inability to create enough and their openness at certain times, but you think about that opening game, like just shocking from Bayern on that corner. Arsenal get a goal and they barely create another chance for the rest of the game. At worst, that result should be a 0-0 draw with a competent goalkeeper. Then you go to the Fulham game. Bruno Fernandes blazes a penalty over the bar. A guy who has been so consistent scoring from the penalty spot does something like that in a crucial moment, and they ultimately go and draw that game. Grimsby again. Yeah, we never should be losing to Grimsby, whether there's individual mistakes or not. But two shocking errors from Andre Onana gift Grimsby 2 goals in a small pitch in horrible weather. Yeah, it's gonna be tough to come back from that. Again, this past weekend against Brentford, Bayern pretty poor for both of the goals. Maguire again showing that he can't really be. He's not a guy who can really play in a high line, and you can put that on Amorim. Why is he selecting him and still trying to play that way? that's fair enough. But for the most part, it's been real like bad individual errors. Other than that, Man City performance, which is just an all around poor game, especially defensively. But like people are kind of questioning everything that he's done, and like they're like, oh, they need to play a three-man midfield. They're not very good. They'll give a bit more protection for each of these guys. But there is not a midfield that Manchester United could put out there, whether it's three, four, or five guys that will actually be able to compete with the best in the Premier League, or even honestly with the majority of the Premier League. They just don't have the players. Manchester United cannot dominate the midfield in any game. So what their tactics they're resorting to are kind of having to bypass the midfield and try and get it straight up to those forward players who have looked sharp. Yeah, I mean they haven't really got going yet fully. Like, but Bramos looks sharp, Cunha's looks sharp. Obviously coming back off that injury, Sesko finally got his first goal there against Brentford. But hopefully now that can be a sign for them to be able to kick on. They're still in a position where there's still like something there. It's not completely dead. I get why people think that it's gonna leave that way. Like that's like a totally fair opinion to have. But there's still something stuff to cling on to, and I think Amram just has to be smart. They have to just get through it with the midfield, do what they can to just and hope that maybe Casemiro still has some games where he can outperform and Fernandez can just kind of keep on doing his thing. But there is no midfielder at the club now that can come in and really, really completely overhaul and change things for them. The back line, I think he just has to stop changing it so much. I think when Manchester United have their back three set as Lenny Yaro on the right, De Ligt centre back, Luke Shaw left centre back, and hopefully Martinez to fill that role then when he comes back. I think they're solid. I think that's a strong backline. They look good when they have that trio. I feel pretty confident when that trio is playing together that they can be solid. But he keeps changing it a lot and like making early changes. Like we're seeing Maguire come into games, Mazraoui, other guys. He keeps on switching the backline. I think he needs to do that less. I think he needs to commit to the guys. We know Yaro is our future. I think De Ligt's been really impressive this season. Shaw's been a bit iffy, but I still think he's the best option to fill that left centre back role. I think he just needs to stick with it and stop making those changes in the middle of games. Like especially after like the hour mark and stuff. Why are we changing our centre backs? Like that should not be something that's happening so consistently. And then again, he needs to turn Old Trafford into a fortress. That's something that Eric Ten Hag did in his first year as manager, and that kind of helped cover up for some of the really awful away performances and help kind of take the bit of the heat off him because he made Old Trafford that fortress and they picked up wins there and they did most of their good work at home. And they've won two of their three home games so far this year. They go and play Sunderland this weekend. It is absolutely vital for absolutely vital for Ruben Amorim to win that game against Sunderland at home and really show that Old Trafford is going to be a fortress and they're going to be hard to beat there. That he really needs to show that if he's going to have any opportunity to salvage his career at Manchester United, that like the home form needs to be what he builds this year on, because United, in all honesty, deserve to be where they're at. Years of just terrible transfers, bad club building, just the whole negative aura of everything around Manchester United since Sir Alex left. The ownership's been negative. The hierarchy have been out of their depth. Scouting's obviously been bad. Spending big money for the wrong players, not like really developing as much as they would have liked. And they deserve to be this middling team right now. They deserve to be struggling. They're not going to get relegated, which is why I think they're willing to give Ruben Amorim more time. I know people will say, "Oh, they're just as close to the relegation zone as they are to the top four right now." But Manchester United they're not going to get relegated. I can confirm that to you right now. It's not going to happen, and that's why I think they're willing to give him that extra bit of time to figure things out, because he was one of the bright minds of world football. Like there has to be something more here, and there's still so much to figure out. They still need probably two midfielders. They still need to get a right wing back. They still need to maybe get even a left wing back and maybe even a goalkeeper as well. It's so hard to know. We obviously still haven't seen Lemons yet. Maybe we'll get to see him this weekend. They'll probably want to like introduce him into a home game that they expect to win, maybe to make it as easy a transition for him as they possibly can. But I know we can't just wait around and get all these players. Like other managers have gone into clubs and done a better job with getting to sign all these players. He obviously revamped the forward line, and that like hasn't fully clicked yet. It hasn't really got going yet, but it makes sense. Like Cunha and Buemo are like great players for those positions, and hopefully Sesko turns into the striker that we need. Obviously, getting off the mark last weekend was good, and now we just hope that that's a sign of things are going. Hopefully, this weekend we get our first home game with that trio actually starting the game together, which would be great to see, and hopefully we can see if you maybe that Cunha gets his first goal this time and Sesko can get another, and Buemo continues to be sharp, and then we'll see that things are kind of there's certain areas that actually are going right. It's not all completely negative. And then more importantly, I think we have to think. I know we look around the league and we all say that these managers that deserve a chance, but we're seeing Frank has just gone in at Spurs, and it's kind of like it's been fine, but it's also kind of like, is he really going to be able to take them to the next level that they want to get to? Because at the end of the day, it's never really happened. We get, there's tiers to management, and unfortunately, the guys who are getting linked with the Manchester United job, your Glasners, your Areolas, your Hertzelas, your Marco Silvas, these guys are overachieving with lower level clubs, and that doesn't mean that they necessarily are going to be able to do it when there's more pressure, and you have to be Glasner is a good example. Like his they kind of work off the counter attack. They don't really dominate the ball. They pick off teams and do it like that. That's not going to fly at Manchester United. That will all these managers at this moment have a ceiling, and Manchester United need a manager that can come and punch through that ceiling, and that's what they hope Ruben Amorim will still be. But I think that's an important thing that people have to remember when you look at the other guys that are managing these middle level teams and overachieving. That doesn't mean that they're going to be able to do it at the higher level. It's just it's not how it works, and we haven't really seen it work. Like, look over the last 10 years, Nuno's does great at Wolves, fails at Spurs. Liverpool with their Brendan Rodgers and Roy Hodgson, they were looking good with middling teams that came into Liverpool. They failed. Solskjaer, David Moyes at Manchester United, they failed. Graham Potter, Frank Lampard at Chelsea, failed. Unai Emery obviously came from a middling team in Spain, failed at Arsenal. Yeah, he's done good things at Villa, but at the end of the day, there's just levels to the game when it comes to football management, and all of these guys do not deserve the chance. Sorry, they deserve the opportunity to step up, but unfortunately, almost none of them. I mean, let me know in the comments. Let me know of an example of a manager who was managing on a middle tier team and made the step up and had success at a major club like a Manchester United. Because I honestly can't think of any, and none have happened in the last 15 years in the Premier League for sure, which I've gone all back over and researched. So that's a big thing. That's who's next is something that has not would absolutely be scaring the Manchester United hierarchy when it comes to making a decision on Ruben Amorim's future, and that's going to make them more willing to give him that extra bit of time. Yeah, they're likely going to be middling again, but like I said, if he can turn Old Trafford into a fortress, continue to pick up wins at Old Trafford, then that will turn the season into an improvement. Still won't be where Manchester United want to be, but it'll be acceptable. It won't be a bottom half of the table season like it was last year. It won't be a 15th place with a record number of losses like it was last year. There is some things to build on. Yes, we can't just say, oh, we just have to keep giving him money to invest in these players. He needs to show some more. We need to find some more consistency there. But the idea of other managers is great right now. But at the end of the day, there's no reason to really believe any of them might do a better job in terms of securing Manchester United, being more reliable. Manchester United will be in 7th place this year, then they'll be in 5th place next year, and then they'll get to 4th, and maybe they might be somewhat close to challenging for a Premier League title, but they'll never get through that ceiling, and that's the issue. It's finding that guy who can not only get them back to regularly competing on all fronts, also take them, smash it through that ceiling, and also win them trophies year on year on year. That's what Manchester United are looking for, and that's what they still hope and believe Ruben Amorim is going to be, and that they know that there's no one really out there that they could go and get right now that you truly believe would be that difference maker for them either. And that plays into Ruben Amorim's hand. He's going to get the time here. He just has to make sure that it counts. There's still so much pressure. it could still happen after this weekend. They could go and draw or lose at home to Sunderland, and then all of a sudden we're going into an international break, and all it's going to be a whole negative era, and Manchester United might just have to bite the bullet. But they're going to give this guy time. He's going to get every opportunity to show that he is more than the apparent fraud that he appears to be right now. And as a Manchester United fan, here's hoping that it comes true. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Should he be out on his ass? Is there a guy out there that you truly believe can come in and take this team to the next level? I think if there's anyone out there that deserves a shot at it, I would be inclined to go for Iraola. He's a manager that I think has a style that can translate to success at a bigger club. I think Eddie Howe was the only example of a guy managing a lower team that I've seen go on to a bigger level. Obviously hasn't got to the top level yet, but he's gone on to Newcastle and really done great things there and really shown himself to be one of the best young managers in the world, honestly. And I hope he gets the opportunity and is able to make the signings and get the players into Newcastle to really see what they can do, competing year on year on year. He hasn't got that opportunity yet, but he's like the one example that I've seen of a guy like taking that leap up. And I think if there was anyone out there for me, it would be Iraola that I would look to target if I was Manchester United. He is out of contract this summer. If they are to make a switch, if it gets to just completely dismal, shocking United, or like there's no coming back from him, I don't think he's quite there yet. But again, every other game he seems to be inching towards that level. But I think Iraola might be the guy. But you guys let me know in the comments what you think. And Sunderland this weekend, it has to be a win.